guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are making pineapple donuts. I am testing a recipe that I have never used before. I will link the recipe down below. It is from a website called Taste. I'm testing it for the first time, so we'll see how it works out. We want to start off with 3 tablespoons of dried yeast, which I have here, and warm water, which you want to be anywhere between 105 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. I've got it about 107 something, maybe 108, which is perfect. I'm gonna dump that into my yeast, and we're just gonna mix that up until it dissolves, and we're gonna set this aside. Now, full disclosure here, my yeast may be a little bit old, so I'm not 100% sure if this will work. We're going to find out. I don't use yeast very often, so we'll see if this is going to work. But anyways, our next step is going to be to place butter and our milk in a saucepan. And actually, I don't know if I mentioned, but this is 3 teaspoons of dried yeast and 1/4 cup of warm water, which was between 105 and 110 degrees. I'm going to bring you over, and we're going to melt our butter with our milk. So now we're going to melt our butter with our milk. And then I believe we're also going to let this set aside. And I have my butter just diced up. This is 80 grams of butter. So this is 80 grams of butter and 1 cup of milk. It doesn't say any specific kind of milk, so whatever you have on hand I'm sure is fine. Non-fat, whole milk, whatever. I don't know that I would use heavy cream or half and half, but any kind of milk I'm sure is fine. And I have this on about medium heat, and we're just gonna let this melt up. While our butter and milk is melting, I am going to add my flour, which I have already here. This is 3 cups of just all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of caster sugar, which is just super fine sugar. So what I did is I just took my regular sugar and I put it in my coffee grinder and ground it up. So we're gonna add that to this here. And then I'm gonna take, and I don't know if I said, but that was 1/4 cup of the sugar. And then 1/2 teaspoon of salt I have here, just regular salt. And then we're just gonna give this a mix to combine it. I need to let the milk mixture cool for about 10 minutes. So we will be back after the milk mixture is cooled, and we will move on to the next steps. Alright, the next step is to add our yeast that has been sitting with the warm water. And slowly mix that in, and then we are going to, oh, I don't know if I said, but I made a well in my flour. And then we're going to add the milk to that. And then we are going to slowly mix this so that it doesn't get all over the place. And once it forms a sticky dough, I'm going to knead it for about 2 minutes. So right now we still have a lot of loose flour and we don't want any of that. So now that I've got most of it mixed, I'm gonna go in with my hands here and just incorporate all that flour. Now you see it is pretty sticky there. So I like to set a timer so that I don't over knead or I don't under knead. And as you can see, this is really sticky. And it does say the dough is supposed to be sticky. I don't know if it's supposed to be this sticky, but like I said, we're finding out together if this is going, if this recipe is going to work or not. So we shall see. And as you can see, when I'm kneading, I'm just pulling it over each other and then sticking my knuckles into it. And you know what? I'm actually gonna take it out of here. I think that will make it easier. Wow, this is one of the sticky doughs I've worked with. And you don't really want to flour it because it's supposed to be sticky. So normally you might flour your dough, but this one I don't think you want to because it doesn't say anything about adding flour to it. We're just going to lightly knead it. It says to place it in a greased bowl. So I'm just going to reuse the bowl I had, and I'm just going to use some oil to grease it on the bottom and just kind of spread that oil around a little bit. And I'm going to use my scraper here so that I can get every last bit of this off the table here. And I'm going to scrape the sides off of here too because I want to get all of this. Okay, so now what it says to do is to cover this with plastic wrap and put it in a cool, dry place for an hour. It doesn't say it on the recipe, but I know from experience, you want to cover the actual dough itself, not just the top of your bowl. So we're going to put this on top of the stove where it's warmer in the kitchen here, and we're going to let this set for an hour. And we're going to move on to the next step, which I've already sort of done, which I got pineapple slices, and you want to drain the juice and save half a cup of juice, which I did. All right, I've cleaned my cutting board. I've got my pineapple slices here, and it says in the recipe to drain and save half a cup of the liquid and cut each pineapple slice in half, and you'll have 2 half rings. So I basically, it calls for 440 grams of pineapples. The can that I had was 567 grams, so I basically used all the pineapples out of it and then just took half a cup of the juice. So that was about enough there. Okay, so now basically we're going to place these on a sheet pan lined with parchment paper. Lined with paper towel to drain. Okay. So I've got them all laid out nicely to drain or dry out, and I'm just going to put another paper towel on top just to kind of soak up the top juice. And while this is draining and while our dough is rising for an hour, I'm going to take a rest and do some other things, and I'll come back and we'll see what it looks like in about an hour. Hey, we are back, and here is our dough. It has just about doubled in size. So a little trick, it's not quite warm enough for this to rise on its own in my house right now. The weather's starting to get a little bit colder in the house. So what I did is I turned my oven on to the lowest temperature possible, which was 170, and that helped it rise a little bit. So it says in the recipe to let it rise for an hour or until it doubles in size. So it was a little over an hour for me. So for you, it depends what temperature it is in your house. The hotter it is, the more it will rise. You don't want to turn your oven any higher than your lowest temperature though. For me, that was 170. So if your temperature goes lower, you can definitely turn it lower. I am going to lightly flour the surface here where I'm going to put the dough onto it. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit on top so that my hand doesn't stick. And it says to knead for 30 seconds. Until the dough is smooth. Add just a little bit more flour. So when I'm kneading, I'm pulling it over each other and putting my fist into it like you're punching it basically. And you just want to do this for about 30 seconds until it's nice and smooth. You see how the dough went from sticky to nice and smooth? Alright, that's good. Just gonna let that sit there. And then the next step is we're going to roll out the dough. And you want to lightly flour your rolling pin. You can use a wood one, or I have this one here. I'll link this down below. This is one I got from Amazon. It's for when you're doing like pie crust and you need to measure a certain certain amount of inches. Alright, so we are going to just roll this out here. It says to roll it until it is 5 millimeters thick. Or I should say thin, because 5 millimeters is really on the thin side. So that being said, I'm going to take these off. So I'm just going to roll it out because I want it to be pretty thin for this. And it doesn't have to be any specific shape because we are going to use, I actually don't have, believe it or not, I don't have cookie cutters, round ones. I just ordered some from Amazon, so I'll show you what I'm going to use instead in case you don't have any. I will, however, link the ones that I just ordered. They should be arriving in a couple of days. From Amazon, but like I said, I will show you which ones I'm going to use what I'm going to use in the meantime in case you do not have cookie cutters yourself. I'm just going to sprinkle this with a little bit more flour so that it doesn't get stuck to it. And again, you want this to be pretty thin. Alright, so what we're going to do, and we'll have to re-roll this again once we cut what I need out of it, because we'll have extra dough. I'm going to move my so what I'm using here is, this is off of a mason jar. So that's what I'm going to use for now. I'm going to roll this up just a little bit thinner on the edges here, and that's where we want to be the thinnest. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, we are going to be using a top piece of dough and a bottom piece of dough. So we're going to make even amounts is what we need. So we'll see how much I get out of this first batch here, and then we will roll out the rest and get some more. And if you find that your ring or your cookie cutter is sticking, you can always put a little flour on it. But mine seems to be okay. I'm going to grab a spatula for these to help lift them up, so that if they get a little out of shape, it's not a big issue. Actually, what I am going to do is try to lift all the excess up and get that out of the way. That'll help. So what I'm going to do for these is get a sheet. I have a cookie sheet pan here. I'm just going to lightly flour it. And then I will just get these right on top there. I think that might be, I might be able to get one more out of this. This is going to be the last one. Yep, that's going to be the last one, for sure. Alright, so we're going to re-roll each one of these out a little bit and make them a little bit bigger than now. This will work much better when I have actual cookie cutter that's a little bit bigger than this. Right now this is the biggest I have. So these are not going to be perfect size by any means, but it will work just well, just fine. Alright, so now if I understand the directions, half the round on a baking paper lined tray. So I'm going to get another tray, bigger. Alright, so what we're going to do is, I have another baking sheet pan here with parchment paper on it, and I'm going to take my pineapple, oh my goodness, take my, actually, you know what, I'm going to leave it here and do this because there's a couple of steps I have to do here. So the next thing I have to do is take my drained pineapples, and this is where you can figure out how big your dough needs to be. And basically put it just like so, and then you want to put another dough on top of that. So that's where you need to roll out the second dough to fit on top. All right, so now we're gonna pinch these together, just like so. And we're gonna see if we can cut around to make it more perfect. Perfect, see, just like that. So that is the perfect size. So I'm gonna do all the rest of these off camera so that I don't, you guys don't wanna sit here and see me do all this, but I'm gonna do the rest of this off camera and we'll be back for the next step. Hey guys, we are back and ready for the next step. So I just have like vegetable oil. I have it heating up. The recipe says 150 degrees Celsius. That would be about 300 to 302 or so degrees Fahrenheit. And we're gonna let it heat up. And so right now I have it on high heat to get it up to temperature. And then once it reaches, we're gonna turn it down to a medium low to actually do the frying. So this is heating up pretty quickly. We're at 275 Fahrenheit. I am going to, if you have something like this is best for frying. That way you can scoop it into the batter without it kind of splattering everywhere. But if not, you can use a spatula or tongs. You just want to be careful not to let it splash in there, because hot oil, if you've never burned yourself with it. All right, we are done with that. So I'm going to turn it down to a medium low. I'm also using this wire cooling rack. I'm going to put this onto the side here. All right, so let's see what our, so I turned it down to a medium low. It's still pretty high, so I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is place, I apologize if you can hear my fan, but I just turned it on. So I'm just going to drop this into, I think I can probably get away with 2 at a time. And one thing I forgot to mention is that after I filled all of these, I let them set for 15 minutes before I came to fry them, so that they have a little chance to puff up again. So basically what you want to do with these now is fry them until they're golden brown on each side. Now these may not be like super puffy like you're used to, because we rolled them out pretty thin. Oh, that's perfect. See that? They don't take very long at all. That one we're going to let go a little bit more. That's a perfect little size right there. And so I'm going to flip this over just so you can see, actually that other side didn't get done very well, so we're going to let that go again. Go ahead and flip this one. Perfect on that side. So I'm going to go ahead and do all the rest of these off camera, just so you get the idea here. And after these cool, I'm going to make a powdered sugar sauce that goes on top with some pineapple juice. So still needs a little more on that side. This one's perfect. Alright. So we're going to just drain these a little bit and put them, let me flip this up a little bit, just put them right on here so that they drain all of the, drain the oil so that they don't get soggy. So I'll do one more here, one more set. Just so you get the idea. And then I'll do the rest off camera. But So far, I hope these turn out really good. I may try another one where I don't actually use it in the juice. Maybe I'll do like use the whole pineapple. I'll make like a pineapple filling, and we'll see how that turns out. And then stuff it, how it make the, instead of cutting the hole. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to explain to you guys before I forget. So I cut a hole in the center with, I used a, again, because I didn't have a cookie cutter, I used these piping tips. And I just cut out, oops. I just used it to cut out the center. So that's all I did with that. And so far these are coming out perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these off camera, and I'll be right back to show you the next step. So I wanted to jump back in here to let you guys know that after each little batch that you do, you want to bring your oil back up to about 300 and then turn it back down again, because each time you fry, you're putting something kind of cold in there, or room temperature, and it lessens the oil temperature. So you want to make sure that you heat your oil back up to 300 again and then turn it back down. So I just wanted to jump in and tell you guys that. I forgot to tell you that earlier. Alright, really quick, I just wanted to show you, I had way more dough than I did pineapple. Maybe I cut the dough a little too thin, I'm not sure, but I have extra that I'm just don't do what I just did there, because I just burned myself, so don't do that. But what I was trying to say is I'm just going to drop it in nicely, which I did not do. And I'm going to fry it up just whole like this, and then I have some cinnamon and sugar mixture that I'm going to dip it in. So do not do what I did, guys, because you can't see it now, but my arm's going to be red. So we're just going to flip it over and make a little whole donut out of it. Alright, we are at the last step, which is to take, it says to take 2 cups of powdered sugar, but I'm only taking 1 because I think I made my batch not quite as big, as thick or whatever you want to call it. So this is what the ones that were just plain with the cinnamon and sugar came out like. Let me break it open and show you. It's just, regular dough inside, but I'm telling you, this is good stuff. It's really good stuff. It's addictive. So the next thing we're going to do, so I'm taking 1 cup of powdered sugar, and I can always add more if I need to, but I'm going to start off with 1 cup of that, and then I am going, let's see, where are we at here? And then it says 1/3 cup of the pineapple juice, but I'm going to add a little bit less than that because I'm using a lot less powdered sugar. So I'm going to start off with 1 and like maybe a 1/2 tablespoon and see how that works. I'm just going to mix it up with a spoon, and you want it to be slightly on the thicker side. We're going to basically dip the donuts in this. And if you make it too thin, you can always add more powdered sugar, and if you make it too thick, you can always add more juice. Like here, I think it's a little bit too thick, so I'm just going to dump just a little bit at a time. That way you're not over mixing or making it too thin or too thick at one time. I'm going to add another half a cup of powdered sugar because I think that might not, after looking at it, I think that might not be enough. So I'm going to add a little more lemon juice to that as well. And again, you can play with the ratio. You can make it as thick or as thin as you like. If you want it to be thicker, you'll just add more, more powdered sugar than you would the lemon juice. I mean, not lemon juice, oh my goodness. The pineapple juice. You could use lemon juice if you wanted to, but since we're doing pineapple filling, I thought it'd be fitting, and the recipe calls for the pineapple juice from the can, so that's what we're going to do. So I think that's a good consistency right there. So I forgot that I had some toasted coconut toasting over there, so we're going to add a little bit of that too. So let me clear the space real quick. Alright, so I've got my toasted coconut. I just did that on the stove, just put it on like a low medium, and just kind of keep flipping it. So what I'm going to do is dip my donut in the glaze, and then I'm going to dip it in my coconut there. And you don't have to toast the coconut if you don't want to. You could leave it untoasted, but I like mine to be toasted. I don't really like raw coconut. Kind of weird like that. So we're just going to keep going until we're done here. And I don't know if I made enough toasted coconut. If not, we'll have some without and some with. So that's what we're looking like. I'm going to finish these off camera and we'll come right back. Alright, so here's what they look like. Let's cut into it and see what the inside looks like. So you can see the pineapple in there. Let's give it a taste. Let's give it a taste and see what it tastes like. Now this recipe does not call for toasted coconut on top. I just decided to put it on there. I guess I should have left one without just to see what the difference was, but let's see what it tastes like. That's pretty good actually. I think if I do this again though, I think I would do make a filling. Like instead of using the whole pineapple, I would make a like a syrupy, not a syrup, but like a chunky filling, and make it more whole like this, and then maybe pipe it in. But this is really good though. Another thing I would do, for me, I think what it is not sweet enough. So I think what I would do is caramelize the pineapple before putting it in there. Just take a little torch and put some either regular sugar or some brown sugar on there, and I would give it a little torch. Overall, it's really good. If you're someone that likes something sweet but not super sweet, I think this is the I think this is the dessert for you. Now, I'm gonna give this a try. This is the cinnamon and sugar. Now this is where it's at though. Plain, simple, sweet, and really good. I could just eat all of that. So good. So that's it for this video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any other ideas using pineapple for desserts. In all honesty, I was going to make pineapple upside down cake, but when I went to the store, I forgot to get the cherries, and that's a big part of it. So I thought I'm going to try something else. So let me know what you think of this. I will leave the recipe linked down below, and let me know if you try it, what you think of it, or if you have any other variations that you might try to add to it, and let me know. But overall, I think it's, from me, it needs some adjusting. It's not quite sweet enough for me. So I'm going to play with the recipe a little bit. But yeah, let me know if you guys try it, and I'll see you in the next one.